Oh yeah, Ty.
Hi,
Are
Dan.
we ready?
How you doing today?
um, I'm good. I'm good. How about yourself? What's new? How's the week starting out for you?
It's been an interesting 7 days now, hasn't it?
It has been. It has been indeed. Um, so do we want to just get into it? Should we just start talking Mario Cristobal?
We can give folks a minute or two to get into the stream here. We appreciate folks stopping by. If you're new here, hello, welcome. Thank you for stopping on by. Please post your comments. Let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. We will go into that in painstaking detail.
Yep.
Painstaking for you, Dan. But we got a lot to discuss here. So
We do. And we'll take questions, comments, hypotheticals, coach hires, reactions to every single element of this, like we've been doing with other instances of coaches moving or schools firing or whatever, perhaps with more raw emotion than we've done previously. I don't know what you have, if you cleared your schedule for 2-3 hours.
I'm ready, baby. I'm ready.
Here we
Let's
are.
do it.
Should mention the full audio replay, of course, if you're tuning in right now and you'd like to listen to the whole thing after the fact. The full video replay will be on YouTube. The full audio replay available on verballers.com for Patreon subscribers. It really does help a ton if you're able to support the show, if you enjoy it. This is what we do for a living. Sad or amazing as that sounds, your help really goes a long way. Let's talk Oregon. Let's talk Oregon. Let's talk Miami, please.
Why don't we do it? Welcome, one and all, back to the YouTube channel. As you know, we've been doing these streams here on the Solid Verbal YouTube channel.
Yeah.
What seems like with incredible regularity, as we've got a chaotic coaching carousel that continues to spin wildly and out of control. And there were rumors, Dan, and today, more breaking news to discuss. It was rumored, of course, but it seemingly has become official. Mario Cristobal going to be leaving the University of Oregon, headed back home, if you will, whatever you want to call it. He is going to the University of Miami. It's a process that seems as if it began in mid-November. There's a ton of turmoil down at the University of Miami with respect to the administration. They're looking for a new athletic director. It seems there are a bunch of boosters and other folks connected to the program that forced this move. There are about 1,000 different ways that we can break this down. Before we get into all of those and much, much more, please don't forget to hit the subscribe button while you are here on the YouTube channel.
Amazing.
Hit the subscribe button. It helps. We really do appreciate it. You can also find the link to our Patreon down below, verballers.com, if you want an audio version of this and pretty much all the shows we've been doing throughout the course of the year, especially during coaching carousel season. And of course, we've got another link down in the description. If you just want to subscribe to the podcast, we do 3 episodes a week. We'd love to have you aboard. So, Dan Rubenstein, native son of the University of Oregon, talk to me, brother. What is going on here? Mario Cristobal to Miami. How does it feel from the Oregon perspective?
Strange. It feels strange because, this is college football in 2021, right? Coaches leave, coaches move, coaches promise this and sell recruits on this and then leave. It's the business, right? It is a cold business that we are all far too used to. And some of our schools are the recipients in a positive way of the way that the coaching carousel spins. And some of our schools are not so much recipients of good news in these instances. I'm in a weird place, right? Because I both am optimistic was optimistic or felt optimism for the future of the program, considering that the roster is deeper than it's ever been, right? Like we would see second or third stringers make plays that we had never seen as Oregon fans from the Ducks. And it was, there were times it was incredible. Like there has never been an Oregon linebacker quite like Noah Sewell, for better or worse. There's never been an Oregon defensive end quite like Kayvon Thibodeau. And so I think it's not fully accurate to call Mario Cristobal like a glorified recruiter, which is, I'm sure, what a lot of Oregon fans are going to say. It's not fair at all, because the construction of the program, especially with Willie Taggart coming and going in less than a year, was pretty damn impressive for Mario Cristobal. His assistant hires were largely very sound. and they won a ton of games. They won a Rose Bowl with Justin Herbert, which is an amazing story for a kid from Eugene, beating Wisconsin, getting this Oregon team to become the national brand that it was, right? The conversation among recruits and media, like Oregon was in the mix. Even when they had their downturn at the end of 2021, this was a program that was down and out. 4-8 the same year Notre Dame was, 2016, I believe, in Mark Helfrich's final year, and to where Mario Cristobal helped to get this program from an infrastructure, recruiting, whatever, from a winning. It was really impressive. But, okay, and here's the but. It wasn't fun. It wasn't an especially fun experience to watch Oregon football games by and large. There was the Utah Pac-12 championship game 2 years ago, which was great. Oregon runs away from that one. The USC game, I think it was 2019 as well. Justin Herbert, they run away from USC. Some fun Washington wins, I suppose. Not this year's. It wasn't all that fun to watch. But there was something tedious about where the Oregon program ascended to as it was recruiting well and winning games. And look, you can be picky as a fan. Like it's stupid to be kind of bummed out about a 10-win season. I get that. Sure. I can't help myself that it was a tedious 10-2 with the way they lost to Utah, the way they lost, or twice, and the way they lost to arguably the worst team in the conference in Stanford. So definitely mixed emotions that I just didn't look forward to Oregon games in the way that most people would look forward to their 10-win type program. Call me snobby, call me elitist, whatever. I can only be honest with you. That's why I'm here. So Mario Cristobal moving on, Oregon being paid, right, by the University of Miami to search for a new coach who perhaps runs a less tedious program, is not going to recruit as well as Mario Cristobal. It was fun to see all those commits come in. The classes, the all-time classes for Oregon, right? Recruiting is the lifeblood of college football, and what Mario Cristobal did on the recruiting trail, stellar, absolutely stellar. And I've seen at least a decommit or two from this current class, which is to be expected. But it seemed like he was burning out at Oregon. It really seemed like he was burning out, and people are going to point to, myself included, look, you're at a place for 4 years, and quarterback has never been solved. He inherited an NFL, top-level NFL quarterback. I don't know how Justin Herbert's doing this year. I think it's good.
Yeah.
And essentially wasted him for 2 years. Scheme-wise, offensive coordinator-wise, running, pistol power with one of the best arms the sport has seen in the modern era. So there are things like that I just won't miss. I absolutely won't miss the stubborn nature of Mario Cristobal, head Oregon coach. So there's sort of, I'm trying to be even-handed here and take the good with the bad, but and at the same time, and I've said this before, Ty, on the show, on videos, whatever, I don't love criticizing 21-year-olds specifically, because I believe the players who played for Oregon played their hearts out and did so for just a scholarship. We can talk about that at another time, but like they weren't professionals. They gave their all. I think all of them weren't from Eugene, Oregon. It was a different place, and to go away, like, I respect the hell out of that effort. The passing game was not there. The passing game was not there. Last year is not there currently, and no changes were made. No adjustments were made. Maybe they weren't possible, but the future looked dim at quarterback considering where the present is. And so if that is a reality within your program, you're not going anywhere beyond an Alamo Bowl. You're just not. And that's where Oregon finds itself right now. And I believe Oregon and Oregon fans have aspirations that are above Alamo Bowl level. And Mario Cristobal is, he's putting premium gas into a Hyundai. And I don't know if that's a very good analogy, but the point stands where he is building a playoff caliber roster and losing Vegas Bowl, Red Box Bowl style Pac-12 games. And he probably maxed out as a head coach. And we can talk about the Miami side of this moving forward. And this is 100% we didn't want him anyway. This is not me saying that, because it can be largely brutal and set your program back years, plural, to lose a head coach, especially one who was such a good recruiter, especially with the early signing period. So definitely mixed emotions for me, but I will definitely not miss large swaths of the Mario Cristobal experience.
Well, and so here's the thing. I mean, maybe as an objective third party, I understand why Miami would want Mario Cristobal. Clearly, I understand why Mario Cristobal would want Miami. He's
Yeah.
from there. He played there. The rumors are that his mother's sick in South Florida. It makes sense that he would want to go back there.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if Miami knows what it's getting, because Miami has been on this odyssey now ever since the end of, if you want to go back to the Larry Coker era,
Yep.
their last national championship.
Mm-hmm.
Miami has been on this quest to find the guy that's most Miami.
Mm-hmm.
They keep trying to get these guys. Randy
not
Shannon
unlike
played there.
USC, not unlike where USC was, where Michigan is currently succeeding, but didn't look like it would be. I hear you.
They keep trying to find these guys, whether it's Randy Shannon or Mark Richt, who was there for a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
or Manny Diaz, whose father was mayor there.
Sure.
You could go down the list of guys who have had some strong affiliation with Miami, either having gone there or played there or just been from there. And now Mario Cristobal is the next chapter in that saga. I don't know what Miami's expecting out of this. It's a very odd circumstance. So for those who have not been paying attention, unorthodox would probably be the nicest possible way of describing this hiring process, because they don't really have a functioning AD. It seems like the prisoners are running the asylum from the board of trustees level. Everybody's kind of going 1,000 different directions trying to figure out who the next guy is going to be. And they, to their credit, figured out a way to make this happen. But it was a situation in which Manny Diaz knew that this was going on. It wasn't even behind his back. Nobody had talked to him about this for quite some time. They just sort of left him twisting in the wind as they were in this open pursuit of Mario Cristobal. Now we find out that Manny Diaz earlier today had been informed of the fact that he would not be retained. Obviously, you could jump to the very easy conclusion that it's going to be Cristobal.
Mm-hmm.
It is definitely not an ideal hiring practice. So on one hand, you understand why Mario would want to go home, given his connections to the place. On the other, you wonder, why would Mario want to go to a place that's going to treat its employees that way? And thirdly, I think the bigger point in all of this is, what does Miami really think it's going to get that's been different? That's the question. It's not to say Mario won't be successful there.
Right.
Not at all. Mario has been, I think, a pretty successful college football coach. I don't know if he's worth $8 million a year, but for all intents and purposes, compared to the average, he's definitely above average. He's doing pretty well. He knows the place.
Right.
And I understand the appeal. I just don't know what a realistic expectation is for him, not only stepping into a program that needs a boost and is trying to recapture that former swag, but also one that's a really odd spot just as an employee, right? It makes it hard to succeed if the apparatus around you feels like it's a bit crumbled at the moment. So
Totally.
I'm a little bit curious about where this thing goes next and what it looks like. Even if they get a high profile AD candidate, they bring him over from Clemson.
Yep.
Dan Radakevich, right? That's sort of the rumor that they're gonna pay him pretty handsomely to come down to Miami. Even if they get that infrastructure in place, it takes a while. You can't just flip a switch and expect everything's going to be resolved. So there is part of me that understands it. There's a part of me that doesn't. There's a bigger part of me, perhaps the biggest part of me, that's just supremely curious as to what happens next in this saga.
Right. No, same. And curious about where Oregon goes from here. Curious about what Mario does at Miami. And it's a reality, generally speaking, that you just can't go home in college football, right? That the narrative of the good story, local kid makes good,
sure,
really, really tough to pull off because of the expectations already heaped upon unrealistic expectations, as far as I can tell, as an unreliable narrator, as an Oregon fan. Looking at the Miami situation, I fully admit I'm an unreliable narrator. I am a biased, unreliable narrator, given that this is all very new and I'm trying to sort this out from a very different place emotionally. Miami is not a place that has won a conference title, correct? In the ACC since 2004, we're talking about somewhere in there. I apologize if I got that year wrong. And it is a place that has gone after Miami guys, even if they weren't players at Miami or coaches at Miami. Where obviously we know about Manny Diaz being from there and his roots in Miami, and it limits and puts pressure on at the same time. And it has been a place that has set up guys to fail because they're constantly trying to look backwards. And a lot of the places that succeed and win 10 plus games a season are looking forward. Mario's going to answer to who? Ed Reed and Alonzo Highsmith, like Gino Torretta. Like it's always going to be
The
bringing
Rock.
back
Don't forget about The
glory.
Rock.
Don't
He's
forget
got his
about
hat and ring.
And so that's the concern to me, that it's a place uniquely that sets up coaches to fail. Mario will recruit his balls off at Miami, which will only raise expectations, right? Like if he's putting together top 3 class after top 3 class, but is the same Mario Cristobal, they'll lose to Virginia Tech. They'll lose to NC State. They'll go 10-2, 9-3 every year. I hope it doesn't happen. It would be a cool thing objectively if Mario is able to be that guy for Miami. I don't know where the evidence is that that Mario is the difference maker. What did it take at USC? A Super Bowl caliber charismatic coach. That is the one modern coach who has succeeded. USC in a very similar situation, always looking backwards, big city, big expectations, big personalities involved with the program. It's not a complete analog because I think USC traditionally has had more money and more support going into the program than Miami has. Supposedly now there is more money pouring in from the medical center that's associated with the University of Miami, and some boosters who are getting involved that are supposedly building a stadium in Coral Gables. Will Mario still be around to see that and be the coach in that stadium? I don't know if I'm taking that bet, but again, unreliable narrator. Absolutely, I'm an unreliable narrator here in this whole saga. Look, it was disrespectful what Miami did to Manny Diaz, but it's college football. Like this is not like what was the old Dan Hawkins quote? Like this is Big 12 football. Like this is big time college football. Manny Diaz is being paid for how he's been treated, and he will go elsewhere.
It was unorthodox. It was unorthodox.
Unprofessional and unorthodox.
It was unprofessional. It was not handled professionally at all. I get that they're in a bit of transition at Miami, but nonetheless, they get their guy though, right? And we'll see. So I think the recruiting under Manny Diaz had been dragging a bit. Folks down there weren't happy with recruiting. He did get Tyler Van Dyke, which I'm curious to see what his move is going forward. But just as it seemed, we were starting to ask that question around whether TVD could save Manny Diaz's job. Miami did pull it together down the stretch. It was still far too close in many of their games, but nonetheless, it did seem as if TVD got things going offensively in a much better direction than it started. It has proven not to be successful in terms of retaining Manny Diaz, so he's going to be out and about. There are a bunch of schools looking for defensive coordinators. I'd imagine he'd be a hot name on that market. And on the Mario side, if he can come in at Miami, if he can hop in the car and recruit locally, that is, I think, what Miami views as its most successful path. The problem for Miami, and something that Mario is going to have to overcome, is it's not 1992 anymore, right? Now, all of a sudden, you've got schools like Alabama, you've got schools like Clemson, you've got schools all around the country who have built pipelines into South Florida. Right. Miami used to be the only show in town, or at least to a much greater degree than it is now, where there are many, many other brands out there that recruit nationally. So that's, I think, job one for him, to go into Coral Gables and figure out a way to keep that talent home at the University of Miami. If he can do that, and then if he could find some way to obviously optimize that talent once it gets on the field, that would be the dream ticket. That is really what no other coach, well, not no other coach, but no coach in a great long time has been able to master down there.
By the way, I just saw somebody, I'm eyeballing the comments. They're coming in fast and furious. And somebody is saying, look, Nick Reed, who was a pass rush specialist from the early 2000s, was statistically better than Kayvon Thibodeau. Ty, do you know who Nick Reed is? Of course you don't. Of course you don't know who Nick Reed is. I love the old timey fans were like, this bit player who had more sacks than Kayvon Thibodeau 20 years ago actually is better. Okay. I love how the infighting within the fan base is always fun for me. No, I think everything you said is true. And Miami has an uphill battle, and they're throwing a lot of money at it, Ty. They're throwing an awful lot of money at it. And so, look, maybe the escort becomes a bride. Who am I to say that it's not going to be the case? But it's a big swing. And honestly, I admire big swings. We talked about on Saturday on championship weekend, speak with your chest. Miami's going for it. Miami, they didn't fully go for it with Manny Diaz, the Randy Shannon and Al Golden. I know Al Golden wasn't a Miami guy, so that would be, I guess, your lone exception. He's a Penn Stater, right? Like his past is in the Northeast. But look, it takes a lot or it will take a lot to win at Miami because there are certain hurdles. The thing that you mentioned with recruiting and the schools that have made inroads at Miami's sort of not downfall, but move away from national prominence and national dominance almost perfectly aligns with when YouTube came around, right? Like 2005-ish, when suddenly everybody could see film on any recruit, and it's only obviously gotten more public since then, and anybody could watch any college football game they wanted, right? Where college football went away from being this regionally broadcast sport, and that were always, big national games, but that was, Michigan, Ohio State, or Florida State, whatever. And now everybody can watch an Alabama game or an Ohio State game or a Texas game. And if a kid from Coral Gables or whatever says, oh man, I could be the next Jalen Waddle, I got to go there. I'm being recruited by them. And that's how they would use somebody fast and ridiculous like me. I got to go there. You're not just locked into that local pressure anymore because that's the only thing you know and only thing you see and only thing you grow up with. I mean, current recruits, what have they seen from Miami? Not a ton.
Well, and that's what they're trying to change, right?
Here. Yeah,
that's what they're trying to change. That's
what they're trying to change. Is there going to be patience in Miami, right? Like a lot of these places, it's a slow build. They're paying Mario fast build money. Yeah. And so,
well, look, I mean, we have been waiting since Miami joined the conference for them to rise up and be a counterbalance to some of the other programs. Most recently, that program has been Clemson. We'll see what happens with Clemson. It seems as if the cupboard is being raided at Clemson at the moment, be it at the administrative level, at the assistant coaching level. Who knows if Tony Elliott decides to go somewhere? He's rumored to be a candidate at Virginia. So there is a strong possibility anyway that Dabo Swinney is going to have to reconstitute that program on the assistant coaching level. And maybe that will provide an opening for other schools in the conference, like a Miami, like a Virginia Tech, like a North Carolina, like a Florida State. I mean, you can name a bunch of schools that are all trying to Wake Forest that are vying to try and get to that next level.
Right.
Miami now obviously has an interesting opportunity. And look, I want to see Miami be interesting again. I'm tired of having these conversations on our national college football podcast every week about Miami kind of, eking one out or going 8-4. Sure. And we want to be at a place where we're talking about Miami truly bringing the swagger back. That's what this is all about.
That's looking backwards, right?
It is looking backwards.
The use of that word, right, will forever pull Miami into the past. It will pull the Canes into the past. I mean, I went back and I looked, right? How many articles have been written when a coach is hired at Miami? Job one, let's bring that swag back to the U. No. Just start over. Reboot. That's how you fix routers, Ty. Reboot. Well, and Mario can do that and has done that. I think he needs time. I think there needs to be a certain degree of patience, especially whatever after the Tyler Van Dyke era, if he sticks around. I haven't seen anything to think otherwise, but if he sticks around, as players and quarterbacks are moving to go to the best situations for them, it's going to take a minute. And the assistant coordinators and all the assistants and coordinator hires will be fascinating, but to get Miami back to where their fans want to be, I think it's going to take a minute. So, fascinating story. I really thought in my heart or in my head, I don't know where I thought, but as a biased narrator, Mario builds this roster to 2022, 2023, seems to have a quarterback of the future, deeper than Oregon's ever been, gets everything he wants for in Oregon. And I've said this before, and it was not specifically about Oregon, but the best Power 5 job for a coach is the one you're at in which you are currently succeeding, because it is difficult. It is difficult to succeed and to hire and to recruit and to keep people on the same page 12 months a year and to win 10 plus games a year. And now you're going to a guy, not unlike what USC is doing, not unlike what LSU is doing. You're going to a guy who are you talking about a guy who actually built that? Oregon took a chance on him. He was an offensive line coach for Alabama, came over as Willie Taggart's coordinator, and he's starting over.
Yeah,
that's tricky.
I kicked off a straw poll here among the folks watching on YouTube. By the way, if you're stopping by for the first time, I'm Ty, he's Dan. We're a national college football podcast called The Solid Verbal.
Yeah.
Dan is an Oregon grad, so he's got a little bit more skin in the game here with the news of the day that Mario
I also make
Cristobal.
pizza. I have lots
He also
of
makes pizza.
opinions.
Sure.
Yeah.
But subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. We'd appreciate that. I took a straw poll here among our viewers. Is Mario Cristobal a good hire for Miami? 52% yes, 34% not sure.
Okay.
Not sure. And I can tell you, having run these polls now on many different occasions since last week, Dan, just last week when the Lincoln Riley stuff came out, it feels like 8 dog years ago when Lincoln Riley went to USC. It was just last Sunday.
So long ago.
In all of the polls that I've been running, that's the highest percentage of folks saying not sure. For whatever that's worth, for whatever the viewing audience knows or doesn't know, 34% has by and large been the highest. So maybe that's due to the hiring process. Maybe that's due to the fact that Mario got blown out twice to Utah here very recently, lost to Stanford earlier in the year. Who knows what the influences are of the voting public, but nonetheless, that's a pretty high percentage. We will take some comments here momentarily, but I did want to.
By the way, what you just mentioned, the ways in which Mario Cristobal Oregon teams lost, not unlike how Miami lost that Florida State game. Stupid ways, in dumb, irresponsible ways that were not always on him, that were for sure not always on him. That should be said. But some of those, those 4th and short calls that change the tenor of games, staying in bounds or going out of bounds, or, with the freak fumbles against Stanford in 2018, with basically going 3 and out for entire halves in 2018, 19, whatever it was against, or 18, Utah and Wazoo. It was, the Auburn loss where they're up big and then just completely shrink away from the moment. The ASU loss where Jaden Daniels turns into Joe Montana just for a spell, just for a moment. Jaden Daniels is the best quarterback in the nation when Oregon has the playoff on the line. And of course, this year with Stanford, with the 2 Utah games, and the fun or not so fun thing was just Oregon played down to teams that they were way better than, like Arizona this year.
Now you're getting warmed up, Dan. I like it. I like that you're getting warmed up.
All I'm saying is Mario may have an amazing career at Miami. But you can't paint the Oregon fan base with a single brush, right? Some people loved him. Some people didn't like him. Some people were mixed. There are certain facts that are true to all Oregon fans watching this Oregon team. They were pumped up as hell to win a Rose Bowl, pumped up as hell to win 2 straight Pac-12 championships, pumped up as hell to beat Ohio State in Columbus in the shoe. There were a lot of amazing moments that, are true of everybody who wears green, yellow, black, white, whatever. But it was a tough experience visually. It was just from the pistol to Anthony Brown and that passing game to Marcus Arroyo to wasting Justin Herbert. It might have just been a bad fit, Ty. Mario Cristobal in Oregon and that staff may have been a bad fit.
Well, that's a good segue to this slide here.
Okay, here we go. Let's talk.
This was clip art. I made this with clip art. I'm sorry. It was on short notice, but
it's beautiful.
The open question now is what's going to happen at Oregon, because it's fairly late in the cycle, right? Notre Dame was in this similar spot recently. So was Oklahoma. Coaches go elsewhere. What do you do? The Oregon job's interesting because as opposed to, I think, the Oklahoma job, where almost everybody said immediately Brent Venables has to be the first call. Notre Dame, you kind of had 3 names.
Sure.
It was either Marcus Freeman, Luke Fickell, or Matt Campbell. Those are the 3 that came up. I don't know if all 3 were contacted, but those are the 3 that came up almost instantly. The interesting thing to me, again, objectively as a third party here with respect to this Oregon job, I haven't heard those 3 names. I've seen 18 random names, including Chip Kelly, which does not seem like it's at all plausible.
No, not really. Yeah.
And so the fact that we've got, I just pulled this down, I think, off Athlon. They posted this quickly. Athlon does a great job. They're as in tune as anybody with this, but it seems like a lot of grasping at straws with respect to the next direction for the Oregon program. Let me start with this list.
Okay.
Are any of the names on this list feasible to you?
They're going to have to pay a premium, and they're starting off ahead of the game because of the buyout cash, I suppose. Not that Oregon has ever lacked for cash, but the AD, Rob Mullins, has always been a little bit skittish on his raises to Mario were pretty incremental. He didn't, blow the bank, if that's even a term. Yeah, I mean, Wilcox his name is going to come up because he's from Eugene and he went to Oregon, and now there is an even bigger fear that a coach is going to leave after the last two guys from across the country left to go back home, quote
Just
unquote.
don't hire a guy from Florida. Florida people this time.
That's
all right.
smart. Kalani Sitake went to BYU, but does have a West Coast footprint with his experience and has done a really great job with BYU, though I would imagine Oregon's a little less appealing because BYU is going to a power conference sooner rather than later in the Big 12. Matt Campbell doesn't fully seem like a fit. Dave Aranda has already come out and said that he is not going anywhere this cycle. And so, far be it for me to take a college football coach at his word, but he kind of seems like a different dude in that regard, that he probably will stick around Baylor. And I wouldn't pay Dave Aranda $10 million or $9 million or whatever the premium is right now, because he's relatively green at this point as well. And so, yeah, Dan Lanning at Georgia is from across the country. Andy Avalos, still green, still young, but was there and I think he's from Southern California. So that's interesting to me. I'd throw Jeff Hafley in there. I don't know where Jeff Hafley's from, but he's a young, well-regarded coach who, was promising last season. Obviously, they took a downturn this year with an injury at quarterback to Phil Dracovic, but has proven, he was in the NFL with, I think, Ryan Day and Chip Kelly with the 49ers. And so young, energetic dude, hires well, I think would resonate on the recruiting trail at a bigger place, but also green, right? Has not done anything huge. I don't think Oregon needs to hire a sitting head coach or somebody with head coaching experience, but there needs to be somebody obvious with some kind of West Coast footprint, either experience or currently somewhere in the region or the Mountain Time Zone or something like that, that is going to hit Southern California and Utah and Colorado and Arizona pretty hard. Oregon will lose inroads on the East Coast and the Southeast. That has paid dividends. Brandon Dorless, one of their other star defensive linemen, I want to say he's from Carolina or Georgia, somewhere in the Southeast, East Coast. So that hurts because the West Coast is devoid of offensive and defensive linemen on a big level anyway. So, yeah, I don't know if I left out any of these names. Brian Harsin seems unlikely. He's at a huge place. We'll see what happens with, the off-field conversation with him. Chip Kelly is not going to happen. So I don't know how I would handicap this. To be honest, I know it's kind of a cop-out answer, but as much as I'm trying to speak with my chest, nobody's like, that is the obvious guy, right? Dave Aranda would be great, but he's from Central California, I believe, and has California ties and is really well respected at this point and turned around Baylor immediately. I just don't think he's coming unless you throw him a crazy amount of money. And even then, I don't know. I think his daughter may be going to Baylor, and that can always change. Matt Rule is interesting to me, right? Matt Rule, I don't know what his future is in the NFL.
Matt Rule is interesting to everybody, right? And then there are other names. There's Joe Brady.
I don't think it'll be Brady.
Joe Brady just lost his gig at Carolina.
Yeah.
So what I think is most interesting about this coaching cycle, we knew there were some high profile openings. We knew that Mike Bone at USC, we knew that Scott Woodward at LSU were going to try and make a splash hire. Right. And in both cases they did. What I don't think we fully expected is that the backfill was going to be high profile coordinators and not other head coaches. And
right.
We saw that at Oklahoma with Brent Venables, right? Great hire for them. Makes a ton of sense. Marcus Freeman at Notre Dame, another example of that. Even Virginia Tech gets rid of Justin Fuente. Who do they hire? Brent Pry, the defensive coordinator from Penn State. So it's like a bunch of these coordinators obviously now getting their chance as well. And we may be at that stage in the game where that's what Oregon is looking at. If they're not willing to pay that premium to steal a guy like an Aranda away from Baylor, maybe you're aiming a little lower and you're paying, $6 million, $7 million a year to get someone like a Dan Lanning.
Yeah. I don't know who it is. And, an easy answer would have been Kalen DeBoer, but of course timing was such that Washington made a ton of sense for him. And I think he's going to have some success or a good amount of success in Seattle because he was the sort of big G5 West Coast name. And no, Brady Hoke is not a big West Coast name. No, it'll be fascinating to see. It is still at a point right now because Oregon is kind of removed. It's, the Pacific Northwest from the Southeast and Midwest, which are the clear hotspots of the sport, that I'm sure there is going to be concern. Like it was eased a little bit with Mario Cristobal because of the situation where he was given his second chance, right? It doesn't work out at FIU because of a bad AD, getting rid of him too quickly, has to go to the Nick Saban finishing school for boys and, become an offensive line coach, assistant head coach, and wanted more power. I think was demoted at a certain point to just offensive tackles at Alabama. And Willie Taggart convinces him with an OC title to come to Oregon. The players pound the table, stand on the desk for Oregon to take the interim tag off of Mario Cristobal. So I think Oregon felt a certain degree of security and loyalty because of that. And it's okay that it didn't happen because, again, it's college football. But I think they're more skittish than ever to say, all right, head coach from New Jersey. All right, head coach from Georgia. All right, head coach from El Paso. Come on up to the Pacific Northwest where you haven't spent any time and stay here for 9 years if you're successful. Right. It's a tough ask. It's a tough sell.
So let's do some comments here. Abe saying Mario needs to get Joe Brady. Yeah, everybody wants Joe Brady, man. Joe Brady gets fired, but Joe Brady still got a market for him after what happened in 2019. To further the point that we said before, Abe, let's see what kind of sway Mario has now with respect to bringing assistants to Miami. He's going to have to fill out a staff. Maybe he'll retain some guys, maybe he won't, but we know Manny Diaz won't be defensive coordinator, and we know that there are going to be a bunch of openings down there. So Joe Brady's going to be a hot name. It will be very interesting to see which direction things head there. Patrick, Oregon's won a whole lot more than Miami, Dan. So I will pose this to the chat, not necessarily to you, because I know how you feel on this.
I don't know what you're going to ask.
Yeah. Is Miami a better job? Objectively speaking, if we take out the personal ties for Mario Cristobal, but if you're just comparing job to job.
What does better job mean, though?
Well, many job can mean a variety of different things, but I'm saying objectively speaking, I would welcome the chat's opinion on this very subject. Objectively speaking, take out Cristobal's ties. Which is the better job between the two? Because I think you can make a compelling case for Oregon, frankly, over Miami, given where the program's been over the last decade plus.
Right.
I think it's a pretty convincing argument, to be honest with you. But then there is personal ties. All decisions are emotional. And so I get it from Mario's perspective. I get it from Miami's perspective. But I think it's an interesting question, Patrick, to say the absolute very least. Let's go to Keith.
My answer is I don't know. By the way, my answer is I don't know, because part of me says Oregon is because it's better set up to win. There's been more investment over the years into facilities and the program as a whole, coaches, assistants, everything like that. Stadium, right? Miami doesn't have a stadium. Miami doesn't have a place to play at or near campus. So there is the case for Oregon that there's much more of a winning tradition in the modern era, last 10, 12 years, whatever. But at the same time, your program is only as strong and as attractive as the candidates that you can lure to coach your team. And Oregon couldn't convince Matt Rule. Oregon, bid against nobody to extend Mark Helfrich. And Mario Cristobal chose Miami over Oregon. There's personal ties there. So I don't think there's a compelling case that you can make today that Oregon is the better job. Maybe in a couple years we can see. But today, the recruiting is far better in South Florida, but also it's rated more, right? Like if it were so easy to win in Florida, we'd be talking about Florida, Florida State, and Miami as perennial championship caliber programs. And do we?
No. All right.
We do.
Keith. Okay. Keith's saying, I don't understand the Justin Wilcox love.
Yeah.
2 winning seasons out of the last 5, never cracked beyond the top 30s in recruiting. I know it's just Cal, but that doesn't scream success to me.
Sure.
Don't know if we're necessarily giving Justin Wilcox a ton of love on this stream or on the podcast, which again, you can't subscribe to if you click the link down below in the description. But he's a name. And again, to further the point from earlier, we're sort of just looking for names. We're grasping at straws here for where Oregon may go next because, I'm not going to say it fully came out of the blue, but it's pretty late in the cycle. And so we're just grasping here. There aren't any obvious candidates, and Wilcox is a name. I don't hate Justin Wilcox. It's also not something that I think would give me the vapors if I were an Oregon fan.
Right. You'd have to buy low. It would have to be an absolute faith, hope experiment with Justin Wilcox that his restrictions during COVID and academics at Cal and where the program fell to in terms of support. Now it's increased, that you have to say, okay, Justin Wilcox with better resources, better support at Oregon is a winner, right? Because of what he did as a defensive coordinator at, Wisconsin, whatever. He's been all over: Tennessee, Boise State, USC, which they didn't like him there. I think he got let go, and Washington, where he was promising. So you would have to say to yourself, okay, I could see the ceiling and potential. The problem to me with Justin Wilcox is Eugene is removed enough and does not have the local talent to sustain anyone less than an absolute killer as a coach or an absolute killer as a recruiter. Chip Kelly was that killer as a coach and was a decent enough recruiter. Mario Cristobal was that killer on the recruiting trail, and so they could out-talent teams most of the time. I don't know where Justin Wilcox just sort of falls in the middle of that. His OC hires have not been strong at Cal. He's a defensive guy, and you're only as good a coach as the coordinator you're able to hire on the side of the ball that's not your specialty. And the Bo Baldwin hire did not work. I think it's Musgrave there now. Their offenses have been duds. And so he's developed talent on defense for sure. And I would imagine he would be able to build a pretty impressive defense at Oregon. But what is his track record in terms of helping to craft and hire an offense? Not great.
For what it's worth, our friend Jeff Schwartz, former Oregon lineman, former NFL player, Jeff Schwartz, who does Big Boy Bets with you, bigboybets.show, longtime friend of the show. He's with us. No idea which direction Oregon goes. What do we got here?
It's also so late in the cycle, right? That like the timing of all of this, and there's never good timing. I understand that, but the timing of all of this and the way that this was all dragged out, right? We're in day 4 of all of this happening, and every day you're talking about you need kids to visit, you need recruiting calls and visit, coaches visiting homes and everything like that. So this was really dragged out in such like a sloppy way. Like Miami, they might win 11, 12 games a year. This is a sloppy place. This is an absolute, everything is leaking. Nobody's in charge. It's a sloppy place. And that's why I thought, Mario would consider it because of the home element, but having the roster in place, I figured he would stay at Oregon. But if Miami's able to get buttoned up, sure, it's a different story, but they are not at that point right now.
Tsunami.
Yeah.
How you doing, my friend? Oregon's a better job. Currently, if both schools put major investment into football, then the better job is Miami. I would assume Mario was promised a heavy investment for him to leave. I would hope Mario was promised all sorts of things in order for him to leave. Because Oregon's pretty stable.
Sure.
Whether or not it's a better job is a separate conversation.
The answer's to one dude.
Yeah, Oregon,
dude.
Oregon's a stable job, and Miami is in a state of flux now because of some of the administrative stuff that we discussed
been in a state
earlier.
Of flux for 20 years. Yeah.
Yeah. So I hope that for his sake, if he is going back home, they're going to give him the resources and the support that he needs to succeed at Miami.
Right.
To be clear, Danny maybe a little bit salty because of the move, and I get that.
Sure.
Totally.
I wanted that salt from you when Brian Kelly left, and I didn't get it.
Well, he had been there 12 years. He'd been there 12 years, and
was there 12 years. And also, Brian Kelly's not super likable. Mario's a little bit more likable.
He's not likable. But I hope for Mario's sake that he gets what he needs. Because to be clear, despite what some in the chat may think, I'm not rooting against Miami. I'm not rooting against Miami with this hire. However strange it is that Cristobal came about, coming back to Coral Gables. We're not rooting against Miami.
Right.
We're rooting for someone to succeed at Miami.
Yeah.
And the fact that there's been this trend of guys who are built up and then seemingly let the fan base down.
Yeah.
We want something to change, and a rocky administration does not seem like the best way to change that. Maybe we'll be wrong. What else do we got here?
This is a good one. I was going to go ahead. Dan pretending Cristobal isn't a great coach the second he leaves is pretty amusing to me. Ty, have I been pretty consistent in my disappointment of Mario Cristobal Oregon teams? I feel like I have been.
For the last 4.5 years, yeah.
Yeah, I've been pretty disappointed. Sorry. The recruiting has been great. I've never been disappointed in the recruiting. Matt Campbell to Oregon rumor. Is that what you were putting up?
Yeah, I was going to go to Richard's comment there.
Yeah.
Look, again, we're throwing names at the wall right now, Richard. Matt Campbell's a name. I'm surprised Matt Campbell hasn't gotten more love through this coaching carousel.
Sure.
He's been a name. He'll remain a name. The fact that he went 7-5 this year did not help his stock. If Matt Campbell had gone 10-2, as many, myself included, had predicted preseason, perhaps we'd be in a different spot. Matt Campbell will be at a place like an LSU. Matt Campbell might be at a place like a USC or a Washington or somewhere bigger than Iowa State. No disrespect to the clones, but as it were, 7-5 with a veteran team is not a great way to boost your stock and get one of these bigger jobs. So I think his name will come up. It wouldn't surprise me, but it would surprise me if he were the guy. I don't know. Just feels like that would be such a culture shift that I'm not sure that's in the cards here.
Wow. Shay, who is emerging alpha in the comments, Bruce Feldman saying Tedford to Fresno pending an Oregon job offer. Of course, Jeff Tedford, many moons ago, the offensive coordinator for Oregon before he taken that Cal job, 2002, I want to say. He was Joey Harrington's offensive coordinator and did very strong things at Fresno before leaving for health reasons, and is now once again in the mix for the Fresno job. Kyle Whittingham not leaving, may not be in Utah very much longer. I'm trying to. Okay, here's one. How about this? Lane Kiffin signed an extension. Oregon's got that buyout money now from Miami. You're talking about West Coast footprint. You're talking about offense far more exciting, quarterback development far more robust. How do you feel about that?
I'm not sure how to feel about that.
Okay. I don't know what kind of, Oregon was notorious under Chip Kelly for doing rigorous background checks. If they did one for Lane.
Yeah. What would come up in that? Just out of curiosity.
Results would be.
You don't need to pay anybody to do that. Just go to Google.
For a 24/7 subscription and go
Let's
on.
Go to like
yeah.
Deadspin or, like you could find dirt on message boards. Plenty of it about Lane Kiffin. So I don't, again, we're late in the cycle. Lane Kiffin is as likely to get this job as Matt Campbell or Dan Lanning or Andy Avalos. We're going to have to rely on
playoff coaching ahead.
Well, yeah, sure. But we're going to have to rely on guys with insider access like Bruce Feldman, Pete Thamel, media types such as that to give us some inclination as to where this goes.
Bill O'Brien taking his talents from Tuscaloosa to Eugene.
So look, I'm a Penn Stater.
Yeah.
And I saw firsthand what Bill O'Brien did at Penn State. He stabilized the ship. He did a good job. Bill O'Brien then went to the Texans. That sort of ended disastrously. He bit off more than he could chew when it came to building the program, traded away his best talent, and they sort of suck now. They were a 10-point dog yesterday. I am not, and now he's at Alabama, and he's coaching.
By the way, somebody said Lane is another Florida guy. I hear you, but
that is
at
true.
least was at USC, and I think went to college on the West Coast. I believe. I think did he go to Fresno, something like that? I don't know. I'll look it up. Continue.
But the thing now with Bill O'Brien is, sure, he's coaching up offense at Alabama. He's doing a good job. They just pounded Georgia, right? He's going to get a lot of accolades for that. I'm still not convinced. Maybe he's changed. Maybe he hasn't. He seemed very gruff about all the stuff that comes along with being a college football coach. Not the X's and O's. He's brilliant when it comes to X's and O's. He's a really sound offensive mind. I don't think he likes dealing with boosters. I don't think he likes particularly going out there and being in living rooms, recruiting talent. He did a good enough job holding that Penn State or those Penn State classes together in the short time that he was in State College, but I'm just not sure that is where his skill set is. I think somebody will give him a chance, and if he wants it, he has earned that for sure. Maybe he's learned, but to put him in charge of a big Oregon program, not necessarily a guy who's got any roots out in the West Coast.
Sure.
I don't like it. I don't like it.
I'm just talking about names who have come up and who have some current cachet. Bill O'Brien's obviously in the playoff as well.
Here we go, Dan.
What's that?
Tom Herman.
Tom Herman, Oregon, recruited very well for Texas. I didn't love his hiring at all times and flamed out, was trying to make it work culturally. And, they had moments that popped, beating Georgia in a bowl game in the New Year's Six game. It was the peach of the sugar. Hanging with all-time great LSU, whatever that's worth. But, he might be just an amazing G5 coach, right? He might just, or like mid-tier Power 5 coach, but it really didn't work. And it was an awkward end when they were like quasi pursuing Urban Meyer, and it just wasn't going to work out. But looks like a better coach than Sark. So
Yep.
he's got
Here you
that going
go.
for him. Yeah.
Here's another name for Oregon.
Yeah.
Chris
Don't
Peterson.
think so.
No?
No.
Okay.
Tony Elliott at Clemson. I think he is in later stages with Duke. I think his stock took a hit after this season of Clemson offense, but maybe not. I don't think the 2019 Sugar Bowl, David Leather says about Texas and Georgia. Are there any recruits that are so dedicated to Mario that they would bounce to Miami? Legit other side of the country. Hard to see, although there have been a couple of big commitments from like Texas, so that's closer to Miami. I'm sure Mario will have those conversations with guys from this class because he has been recruiting them and trying to keep them in the fold for so long. But traditionally speaking, outside of, Brad Kaya's from Southern California, I believe. There have been quarterbacks who've gone to Miami from the West Coast, but that has not been a pipeline. We've seen Clemson, we've seen Alabama, we've seen Georgia, some big names, Brock Bowers, Kendall Milton, guys like that. Miami seems like it hasn't really connected itself to the West Coast in that way.
This is my favorite comment right here.
Mike Tomlin.
I love it. I would love to have Tomlin's name come up in accordance with this job or any job, just so that they can ask him about it again and see if we get an answer this time around, like we did the first time around when he was just like begrudgingly dismissing any notion that he'd want to coach in college. I would love to see that.
By the way, here's Jeff.
I'm here.
Hi, Jeff.
Jeff Schwartz, former Oregon player.
Hold on a second. Let me fix this.
First of all, there's no such thing as a former Oregon Duck. Once a Duck, always a Duck. Everybody knows that. How you feeling, Jeff? Or Jeff is fixing things right now. Jeff and I host Big Boy Bets. Jeff and I have been texting furiously, but we do that anyway.
Okay. Sorry. I'm here.
Now that you've had time to digest a couple hours, what are your thoughts?
Who cares? I'm so over it. Like, whatever. We got kids we got Tucker and Florence are going to decommit, and who knows? I don't know. I just don't know who's going to the right person for the job is. I don't know. Oregon has hired from within, right? Mostly, right? Bellotti, Chip, Helfrich, Cristobal. There's no candidate. I don't think. Maybe Joe Salavia is not the candidate to hire from within. I actually don't know how many coaches go with him either. Some of these coaches have West Coast ties. I don't know how many go. Rob Mullins just did his press conference, said he doesn't even know. He doesn't even know.
What did Mullins say in his presser?
That Mario and Miami had official contact Saturday, that normally they call, like Miami calls, a school calls and talks to the president. Didn't happen. Or the AD, Mullins is the AD. He said they're going to take their time finding the right coach. They're not going to worry about recruiting. They said, we can't rush it. We hope the kids. He said that Mario texted all the kids and told them to stay at Oregon, which I thought was cute, but I don't know if that's really what happened.
Right.
And they're going to try to find the right coach. That's it. Simple stuff, but mostly that Mario told him this morning he was leaving and he was torn on the decision. And I guess, like I said, official contact was made Saturday. So the reports on Friday that he was going and all this stuff probably wasn't very true, but I don't know. We've talked about this for 4 days now. I'm just over it. I'm okay. Yeah. We've done it. He's not going to be our coach anymore. Let's move it along.
Give Brian Kelly and Lincoln Riley credit. They took jobs and they went. They're like, all right, we got to go. We got to recruit. We're not going to string this out.
I just don't understand what took 4 days to do this.
Jeff, let me ask you a question. So we've got folks who are tuning in, both Oregon fans, Miami fans, just college football fans in general. Mm-hmm. You're an offensive lineman.
Yes.
Former offensive lineman. So was Mario Cristobal, right? So was Mario Cristobal, played 89 to 92 at Miami. Based on what you saw at Oregon with the way he coaches his offenses, with the way he coaches his team, what can people at Miami expect? What was good at Oregon? What was bad?
Well, obviously the play in the trenches was great. We were able to, offensive defensive line was really good. Dan has mentioned it, the quarterback situation, not always the best, right? We had Justin Herbert and people are saying, well, Miami has a young quarterback. Well, Oregon had one too, who's one of the better quarterbacks in the NFL. And we saw how that offense went. We blamed it on Marcus Arroyo, which is a little fair. His teams at UNLV aren't really good. But that's the issue. It's the game management and building a quarterback. I don't blame him for the defense being bad on third down this year. And that's not but the false starts and the weird, and Dan mentioned it in the stream. It's just these every game, we just can't have an easy game. Take Colorado, for example, right? We're up, what was it, 45-14 in that game. You're like, you know what? This will be an easy game. No, Colorado scores 2 touchdowns in the fourth quarter. They got to put the starting offense back into the game because Ty Thompson came in through an interception, and we had to score one more time to sort of make it look good. Stuff like that, right? Like, doesn't happen other top 10 schools. You're up 45-14 on Colorado. The game ends 45-14.
Yep.
And that just happened routinely at Oregon, where you're like, we're going to win the game. Mario lost once at home in 4 years.
Yeah.
He won all the games, but they went like Colorado game. It was like you're up big, and then all of a sudden you're not up big anymore. And then all of a sudden you are up big. And the in-game, I won't miss that. But he got a lot of talent. Damn it. We had 43 starters this season, or 44 starters. Played 20-plus offensive line combinations. No other team in the country is winning 10 games with that many guys playing. Like, we had, you lose one guy, you put a 5-star guy in. And we had that, and we have to continue that, obviously. It's going to be tough. I don't know who transfers. I don't really think people transfer out. Because I think Oregon's a place, once you get there, you realize the benefits of playing at a school like Oregon, but we might lose commits. I wouldn't be surprised if Calvin Banks bounced. I wouldn't be surprised if the San Diego kids left.
T-Mac is a 5-star offensive lineman.
From Texas. Yeah. And supposedly T-Mac, at least according to the boards, is sticking with Oregon. So at least for now, which will be really good. And USC obviously is going to be calling them. So we'll see what happens the next couple of days. But we'll hire a good coach. That's the thing, guys. Oregon has 4 coaches now since 2005 that have won 10 games. Miami's had 0. No, actually, they've had 1 10-win season.
Mark Richt, 1 season.
One season. So this idea that Oregon collapses now because USC has Lincoln Riley, one of those seasons was with Pete Carroll. In the middle of Pete Carroll's tenure, we won 10 games in 2005. Let's not pretend that Oregon can't win football games because USC's good or Washington becomes good. Mario's 2-0 against Chris Peterson, guys. Oregon wins football games. So this idea that Oregon's just going to fall off a map now is not going to happen, Oregon fans. I'm letting you guys know that. There's too much money involved. There's too many resources involved. We still have good players. We've had good players before. But it's about finding the right guy. And I don't know who that is. The Wilcox thing is interesting. I mean, look, he won't leave. That's one thing. He'll never leave. You're not paying him $8.5 million a year. And if you give him a defensive coordinator, an offensive coordinator who's top of the line, I don't know, you're going to win 10 games, but you're not winning a championship, which I don't know if that's even possible. I have no idea. I'm just rambling, but that's what I feel about Oregon right now.
Yeah, same. I think Oregon's will be in a good place. I think 2022 is going to be fascinating because of the reasons Jeff mentioned, what the recruiting class looks like and who stays, who leaves, because do they bring a quarterback in? I mean, is there going to be a coach with a connection to a quarterback in the portal? Like Lane Kiffin's bringing Dylan Gabriel to Eugene. Okay, why not? Cool. But that would be a very weird, different Oregon. I don't know. It's very much up in the air, but I agree with the approach of, look, recruiting is crazy important, maybe the most important thing, but making the wrong hire would set recruiting back 4 years and would set winning back 4 years, as opposed to one class can set a program back, but it can be salvaged. And with the right guy continues to build or builds in a new way, and it's a new era. But yeah, it's going to be different because as you mentioned, right? Yeah. Not only was Justin Herbert inherited, but an NFL offensive line.
Yeah.
Mario's priority was Penei Sewell. He recruited Penei Sewell and developed Penei Sewell with Alex Mirabal, the offensive line coach. But the rest of those guys on that line in front of Justin Herbert had an NFL offensive line and wasn't a Heisman candidate.
Yeah. It's funny. Someone, Darius Butler, tweeted out that Miami needs to get rid of Adidas. I said, well, they're not getting Nike, so
they're not getting Nike. Nike's not picking up that call.
So you can go to Under Armour, I guess. But you're not getting Nike. You're not getting Jordan.
New Balance. Yeah,
you're not getting any of those.
Jeff, let me ask you this.
Right after this one.
Final question.
Yeah, yes. Final question. We don't know who's going to get hired at Oregon. We have no idea. Yeah. There are 1,000 names that are being thrown out there, but I will ask you sort of the same question that was asked of Jack Swarbrick after Brian Kelly left. What kind of coach, like what attributes, what works at Oregon? What should they be looking for in a guy?
I just think that it's, can you develop talent? Plain and simple. Obviously, you need to recruit now, right? Like if the idea is winning a championship, there might not be a coach out there that's going to get you 4 top 10 classes in a row. You can hire right now.
Right.
But I think for Oregon fans, the goal is to be competitive each year in the Pac-12 and make a Rose Bowl. You make a playoff every 4 or 5 years. And it expands to 12 now. It's a lot easier.
Yep.
But I think all of us agree that we're pretty unlikely to win a championship. I don't know. Maybe I'm crazy. I thought next year, the Ohio State win this year sped everything up. But the staff really believed next year and 2023 were the years to compete nationally. But we're not good enough to beat Alabama. No matter, sorry, Oregon fans, like even next year, we might have played them tough. But unless Ty Thompson showed out to be Bryce Young, we're going to win that game anyway. So I think someone that can just develop talent, like if you get 4 and 5 stars, they play like that all the time. That's what we need. And so I don't know who that person is.
Yeah,
but that's all Oregon needs. I don't think we need to have Nick Saban. I mean, it would be great, obviously, but that's not what we're going to be. So again, 4 coaches have won 10 games in the last 15 years. So you can win at Oregon. We made the BCS title game in a playoff. I mean, there's schools that Michigan just made their first playoff. They haven't played a title game in 20 years. Oregon's done that. Like Oregon's done a lot of winning. So anyone who comes there, I think, will understand that. Rob Mullins also claimed his phone's blowing up. I don't know. I mean, it doesn't mean it's any good coaches, but
or it just means agents looking like, get my guy a raise, get my guy a raise, get my guy a raise. All right.
All right, guys, I got to run. I have an appearance.
Thanks for stopping by.
Yes. All right, guys.
He was saying go Ducks. I think that's all. With as limited information as we have about where Miami's going with this hire and where Oregon is looking to go and what's happening with recruiting fallout and transfer fallout, we don't have the information. But that's our immediate reaction, is it not?
I think that's our immediate reaction. So look, here's the deal, one and all. Subscribe to the YouTube channel if you haven't already. We will do more of these as information becomes available, as the situation demands it. We've been doing these pretty much every time a big coaching domino falls. Of course, this is a pretty big one with Mario Cristobal leaving Oregon, deciding to take that Miami job. Subscribe to the channel. You can also subscribe to the podcast if you look down below in the description. We do 3 episodes a week. We're going to be doing 3 episodes a week until a couple weeks after the national championship. We go year round. Go to our website, solidverbal.com, if you want to check out our old stuff, or subscribe on your favorite podcasting app of choice. You can also go on out to our Patreon, get access to the audio version of this and many of the other streams that we've done. You also get early access to all of our shows, access to our thriving community of Discord participants, and just a whole slew of other bonus perks. Verballers.com, VERBALLERS is how you can look up more about that. We're running a bowl pool now, which we just announced yesterday, which I'm pretty excited about. So you can find out all the deets by going to verballers.com, Dan. I will leave you with a parting shot here before we let the fine people go.
I'm worried.
Again, the news of the day, Cristobal going back home to Miami. Dan Rubenstein, your thoughts?
Oh, I get the Andy Rooney.
You get the Andy Rooney.
College coaches these days. I don't have anything. My parting thought is go Ducks. Don't cry because it's over. Smile because it happened, or smile because it's over. I don't know. Whatever your perspective is, okay with me. The carousel keeps spinning. Fascinated to see who Oregon hires. It's another great day to be an Oregon Duck, and I'm excited for our bowl previews. I'm excited for the novelty of all of these major programs making hires and the fallout from recruiting and transfers. Florida, LSU, Notre Dame, Oklahoma, now Oregon, USC. Like, this is an amazing year. Like, the emotions are running high, but the content is tremendous.
This is tremendous for content. Yeah. And by the way, best of luck to Miami. You know, I know this.
I don't say that like gritting my teeth. Like,
no.
I want good football. That's my biggest loyalty to the sport. It's the Oregon Ducks and good football. That's it.
This is always going to be an Oregon heavy stream, just
of course,
by virtue of your fandom and your rooting allegiance. But we do wish Cristobal well. We wish Miami well. We want to see everybody succeed. So check us out. We're the Solid Verbal. We appreciate you stopping by middle of your day, after perhaps you've seen this news for the first time, a little bit later on in the day or the week or the month or the off season. But we'll be covering this as closely as we can from here on out. I'm Ty. That guy over there is Dan. Stay solid.
Peace. Go Ducks.